All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Keith Walter, and I'm the president of FOVEC. And today we're going to do our monthly live update. It appears we've got some background noise from one of our participants. And so if I could ask everyone else to mute themselves. There we go. Thank you. So today we've got a relatively brief program, I believe. We're going to introduce a couple of our new members who are taking on exciting roles for the organization. Mike Aho is with us from the Park District to give us an update on the village, what's going on there, and also elsewhere in the park. I'm going to take just a moment to share with you some of the things that FOVEC is doing in the community, hopefully involve some of you in those activities. And then we'll wrap it up with some news and the upcoming events. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our hostess, Nan Danford.
Thank you, Keith. Good morning, everyone. I'm coming to you from Bad Fish Coffee here in the village, and I tried to bring this live video from someplace fun and exciting in the village, which I think all the businesses in the village are fun and exciting. So we're super excited about two new members to FOVEC. We have a new grant writing helper, Tori Byngton, and she's gonna be the one I introduce first. Tori's a great friend of mine. We've known each other for a few years, and I'm gonna let her tell a little bit about herself. She has a wealth of knowledge and experience in the nonprofit world and has a lot to offer FOVEC. So Tori Byngton, take it away. You'll need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Everybody had to mute. So good morning, everybody. Thanks, Nan, for that lovely introduction. I'm really pleased to be joining FOVEC and wonderful organization helping the community that I love and live in. So my background, Nan wanted me to give you a little bit of an overview. I was born and raised in Michigan. I moved here after graduating from University of Michigan. I moved to the Sacramento region in the late 90s and lived here for a couple of years working in the nonprofit world with the Yolo Basin Foundation and the Department of Fish and Game at the time, which is now Fish and Wildlife. And I fell in love with the region, and I happened to visit Fair Oaks Village and said, this is where I need to live. Subsequently moved away. About, 18 years later, decided to come back. So we moved back to Fair Oaks. We live here. We've been here for over 4 years and just had to live here because it's such an awesome community. So I'm thrilled to be able to help in any way that I can. I've been in the nonprofit world for over 27 years, primarily in the environmental field, but also in community development sort of roles. So I have a lot of experience with grant writing. So my role hopefully will be to help FOVEC negotiate the waters of finding funding and applying successfully for grant funding. There's a lot of money coming down, the proposed budget coming through the governor's office this year for 2022 and 23 has about 37 billion in it. So there should be a little bit of money for us to go after to secure for some projects that are, priority for the organization and for the community. So I'm going to assist in helping folks write those proposals and get those submitted and, offer the knowledge and experience that I have. And hopefully we will get some projects going and on the ground. So I'm pleased to be here, and I'm looking forward to meeting more folks and getting, to know more about the community and the organization.
Tori, I'm really excited about the role that you've agreed to play. And one of the things when we met before that I wanted to make sure you shared today is, you've been doing grant writing for a long time, and I think what I heard you say is you've never seen the amount of opportunity that's available right now. And so I think we're in exactly the right place at the right time. And with your help, hopefully the community can come together and we can tackle parking and signage and some of the other issues that we've been trying to address for a number of years. And so thank you very much.
Yeah, I think that's a really important piece, Keith, is that the partnerships are really going to matter, you know, that we partner with not only the businesses, but the community as a whole. That helps position FOVEC really well in proposals to get funding. So there's going to be some exciting opportunities and growth and partnerships. So I'm excited about that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, we are super excited to have you on board. And next, we'd like to introduce our new membership and volunteer chairperson, and that is Cheryl Forensi. Cheryl is also a Fair Oaks resident and a great friend of mine as well. So I see Cheryl, you're on. She's going to be overseeing onboarding members and communicating with volunteers and letting people know about volunteer opportunities. And I will now introduce Cheryl, my good friend Cheryl Ferenzi, and let her tell you a little bit about her background and what brings her here to FOVEC. Take it away, Cheryl.
Hi, everyone. Well, thank you so much for being here. This is my first live broadcast with everyone. As Nan says, we're good friends and have a lot in common. But a little bit about me, I was hoping to catch Tori's because I was like, well, how much do you share, right? Anyway, I am a Fair Oaks resident for the last 3 years, but my husband was born here in Sacramento. We've lived here the first 18 years of our life. And in being married, it was a early reunion. So a little bit about me is a lot of married. I worked for the legislature for 10 years and I decided to stop working and have 2 children. I have a son and he's in Washington now, and a daughter, and she's in New York now. And I'm living in Fair Oaks with my husband. We have a wonderful home that Nan helped us find in Fair Oaks. We decided to live in Fair Oaks because prior years we lived, when we first were married, in the west side of town and the pocket side of town, which is south and in Granite Bay. And then we left the great state of California, went to Arkansas, and then went to Chicago for 10 years, and then came back and lived in San Diego for another 9 years. And when we returned, Fair Oaks is where we looked and decided this is where we really want to be. And, you know, one of those sayings, the forever house. Well, for us, it'll be a big deal if I get to stay here 8 or 9 years, but I'm hoping for a forever house. So we found a house with Nan's help. We have a ranch style home that I would say remodeled, but it feels more like rebuilt. We moved in October of 2018, and I've really enjoyed the quiet town of Fair Oaks, and I have taken on raising chickens as a hobby for me. So having Nan ask me to be part of FOVEC is an excitement, because it's going to bring me more in touch with Fair Oaks and downtown. I really found that the more you step out and meet the people and be a part of the community and you know, answer those volunteer calls that she would send to me, it was just a lot of fun. And I like the feel that you get when you walk through town and you can wave and say, hi, you know this person. And there are so many businesses. One of the most important things for me last year was, could I do everything in Fair Oaks? Could I throw a party, have the flowers, have the food, have all the things I was looking for, a live band? What can I find from Fair Oaks? And I got it all done from my home through Fair Oaks. And it was an eye-opener for me to realize that there's a lot of people that, you know, you think you're going to do something and you research and you outreach to other places, but you can turn right around here, and in Old Town Fair Oaks, you can just find all the sources you want. So I'm hoping to reach out to the members and see what I can do to help people look at our website that FOVEC has, because I didn't look at that and take advantage of it for a very long time. But for me, I'm glad to be here. I love talking to people. And if you had been around Fair Oaks yesterday, you would have seen me at 8 o'clock in the morning having breakfast and then returning around early lunch and hitting the village one more time. And then my husband and I had dinner at Brahma's at night. So it was a full day of Fair Oaks, but I was really hoping to get everything taken care of for our change of dates on the winter social. So anyway, that's about me.
Cheryl, thank you for sharing that and for taking on this role. You know, something you just said, which I think is really important, is we do these Zoom meetings, we have a website, we send emails, but Fair Oaks is really very much a village, and the way that people expect to be communicated with is one-on-one, in person or on the phone, and your willingness and person allow us to do a much better job of communicating with our members in the community. And so I'm excited to have you in that role and can't wait to see the results.
Let's hope.
Yes, I'm super excited about that too, and very grateful, Cheryl. You're the perfect person for this position. So thanks so much for taking it on again. All right, Keith, back to you.
Speaking of technology, we do this one, and we do it in a couple of different ways. We obviously use the Zoom technology in order to allow everyone to join and present and to interact. And it's open to the public. We encourage anyone to the Zoom link to interact with us, to have a question, to make an announcement. If you're uncomfortable with that, we also stream this live to Facebook Live, where you can watch it. We can't interact with you there, but you're able to view these. And we record these and share them on our YouTube channel if the timing doesn't work out for you. So if you happen to see something that you found interesting and want to share it with others, always use our website or YouTube or Facebook to go back and view these after the fact. So without further ado, I'm going to try and get the technology to work for me and turn it over to Mike.
Well, thank you, Keith, and I'll wait for that to show up here. But in the interim period, Cheryl and Tori, welcome. I'm excited to be part of this group and work with you too on what's going to happen next. And it's exciting times coming up, and I believe that all of us have a role to play, even if we're not on this group. I think as a village, everybody in the village and everybody in the community of Fair Oaks will have a role to play as we move forward. So exciting times, and I appreciate you guys willing to volunteer and step forward and be part of this.
Okay. Hopefully, Mike, we are now seeing you. Okay.
All right, thank you. Yeah, and as Keith mentioned, I'm Mike Aho. I'm the district administrator for Fair Oaks Recreation and Parks. And we are working on a major project. For those that don't know, Measure J is the bond measure that financed the major renovation for Village Plaza Park, the community clubhouse, and the amphitheater. It's approximately an $18.8 million project. It may squeeze itself up past 20. We'll see how that 20 million. We'll see how that goes as we move forward. Okay, so next slide, please. So a couple of things here that are really not, I guess, park related, but are going to really make an impact on the village. And we talk about Fair Oaks Village Enhancement Committee. So it's how the village is enhanced. And one of the things that we have in the village, and this is looking at Park Avenue right here, just above the park, is we have some street issues. Now, when we did our polling to the public before we went out to the ballot to see if we could pass the general obligation bond, one of the number one thing that people said that they were concerned about in Fair Oaks as a whole were the roads. Now, we have nothing to do with roads. We are a Parks and Recreation department. And it was really disappointing that we can't work or do something with the roads. It would be nice if somebody had that authority outside the county, because the local jurisdictions really are the ones that are affected and impacted by roads that are deteriorating. And here you can see the roads that have deteriorated right next to the park. You can see the runoff on the right edge there where it says failed pavement. You can see the patchwork on the edge trying to hold that pavement up. And you can see the runoff from the road going down toward the park. You can see how it's sloped down there. That in itself is a challenge because, as you know, road runoff has a lot of things on it. So throughout the dry months, those roads pick up a lot of oil sediment, things like that. And then it is then when it rains, and it heavily rains, when it does rain around here, it washes into the park. And so that water is not captured and treated like it should be. And that's what needs to happen. So as we were doing our project, the Sacramento County, the reviewers, the design reviewers of that, the planners, they came back to us and said, you're going to have to deal with your curb and your sidewalk and the edge of the road. And we are actually going to make you deal with the road up to the center line. And we kind of pushed back a little bit, but then we got thinking about it and said, no, this makes sense. We do want to be responsible for that. We definitely wanted the curb and sidewalk, but now looking at the road, it's like, okay, let's do the road. Next slide, please. Oh, Keith. Are you there, Keith? Next slide. Anyway, while we're waiting for Keith, you know, the challenge with doing the road is that it's a whole different type of engineering. And this is Park Avenue also, a little further down the street and toward the village. And you'll see on the right side where there's a curb. That's not the park, that's private property over there. But you can see the gap between the pavement and the curb is gravel or non-paved. And then you can see the park there on the left, no curb, just a dirt road right up to the dirt. And you can see the failed pavement there in front of those two, the words park and curb. And you can see how that failed pavement basically goes almost all the way across the road and definitely past the center line. So right now we're working with the county to basically have them pave the other half of the road at the same time. This, if we pave just up to center line on something like this, it's a waste of time. We're going to have the collapsing side on the right side of the road. I can't spend the bond money. It's not legal for me to spend the bond money to pave the whole road. I can only pave the required things that we have to do by the county. So we want the county to participate financially in paving that other half. So we're working with them to do that. We don't have that in place yet, but we expect it to happen, and it makes sense. Otherwise, the county will be having to come in, or that road will collapse, and then they'll have to come in, and the cost will be much greater to them if they wait. So hopefully we'll have a cost share to be able to do the entire road, and hopefully that road would be curb, probably not sidewalk, but curb and roadway. And then also, as I talked about that runoff, that stormwater runoff drainage will be addressed, and it's going in the correct directions and the correct places for that stormwater to be treated. Next slide, please. Get that next slide, Keith. Thank you.
Sounds like there's a little bit of a lag.
Oh, there's a lag there. Okay, I won't get so impatient then. And here you can see, this is even a little further down Park Avenue toward the village. You see the Stockman's right there down at the end of the road. And you can see that center line right there where it's probably a water line or something that was patched at one time. And the patch is there. And kind of probably the best part of the roadway is the patch, which is kind of sad when you think about it, that our best part of our road is our patches. But this is a wider part of the road too. And so you're able to park on one side of the road at least. There's a little sections of it where it's too narrow. You can't park on either side because of fire and emergency vehicle traffic that you have to maintain a certain width of corridor. But here you're able to do some parking. We will not have parking on the left side of the park side of the park. It's going to stay on the right side. And the reason for that is it's really nice not to have a park encircled by cars. So keeping some open space and some ability for people to see into the park is critical for just the aesthetics as well as for the park health. This here is a truncated dome, and the truncated domes, you'll see these all over on sidewalks. This is another part of our transportation and village enhancement stuff that we'll be doing, and improvements to the village. The truncated domes are used for people with visual impairments, and it's an indicator for them to know that what's next is going to be traffic. There's potential for traffic coming up next as they feel and step on this truncated dome. Next slide, please. And the truncated domes are required the other way. The truncated domes are required by ADA. That's a federal law, and it's also state. The state can have a more restrictive law than federal. So we are required to do the truncated domes. And as a public entity, we are definitely required to do those because we want accessibility to the park and to our facilities for all people, regardless of abilities. And so without those accommodations for folks who are visually impaired, it's a lot harder for them to use our facilities. And it's also not as safe. So we want to follow those, and we need to follow those. Here's a current conditions of an intersection in the park on California Avenue and Fair Oaks Boulevard. You can see there's no truncated dome just before the traffic. And you can see neither side, if you're going left across the street or straight across the street, you have no truncated dome. So we'll be dealing with that piece as well. Next slide. And it's not just the truncated domes that we've got to deal with. We also got to deal with the ramping issue, how to get the ramp correct for the public. And here's a wonderful project that was done by the village before I got here. And it's a real asset to the village. But you can look at this right here, and that truncated dome would actually need to go, by law, it would need to go right in the very middle of that red square where that plaque is right near the building. For both crossings, and it can't go there. So we had to work heavily with the county to basically get a variant here on this. But this just shows that good intentions sometimes cause problems for what needs to be done for full accessibility to something like Fair Oaks and for the park itself. Next slide. We actually have a variance there, so we won't be putting the truncated domes right on top of the square. And this is another intersection. This goes over toward the deli. The deli is just over there by the mail truck across the street. You can see if you look at the curb there, the corner, we got a utility pole and a support or a stabilizer right there on that corner. For us to move that pole and to make that intersection work, you're talking close to $80,000 to $100,000 just to move the pole because it is a main line. It's actually a transformer on there on that pole. And then to make that physically work for a accessible crossing, you would definitely have to redesign the entire thing. And it had never been dealt with throughout the renovations of the park because the parking stalls there are relatively new, so it hadn't been done. Now we've got a design that I'm not showing the design here because I didn't have it, but we have a design where we're actually going to be able to make that connectivity across the street and be within all of the requirements for the ADA, but without moving the pole. And so I have to applaud our architects for being able to figure that out. But we did spend probably 3 months on this part of the project. Why we're doing other things, of course, but 3 months of time working out design and trying to get variances and things like that. So anyway, those are the improvements that are coming up. We're doing street, curb, sidewalks, accessibility, and those are things just outside the park. And those things will make a difference to the village, and it will put the village in a different light. I also wanted to share today our current estimation, our timeline for what's going to be happening next. This is, I want to highlight the estimated timeline. Things continue to happen constantly as this project moves forward, and it affects the timeline. But right now, the bids for this project are expected to go out this week or next week. The bidders have a 30-day window to submit their bids. We can't go any quicker than that. We have to go by law of 30 days. We can go longer. We had thought about 45 days, but we're going to stick with the 30-day one when these bid goes out. Currently, we've vetted 6 general contractors that are interested in bidding, and that's important because we want to make certain that they have the skill sets necessary to do this complex project. They have the ability to get the right subcontractors on board and all those other things. And fiscally, they're able to do it. We're not going to see some general contractor go bankrupt in the middle of the project and then this thing stalling for a while. So hopefully we get the right bidder based on our vetting of those contractors prior to the bidding process. Once the general contractor is selected based on the bid, we don't necessarily have to take the low bid. If there's a reason why the low bid can be denied, then we could take the next bid. It has to be a pretty solid reason. It's unlikely for us not to accept the low bid, but it has happened in the past. And so anyway, we'll select the general contractor and the board will need to approve that. Right now, that's scheduled for March at the board meeting. And right after the board approves it, the very next morning, we'll give the notice to proceed, which would be at the end of March to the contractor. And then the construction should start April, right around the early part of April. Estimated completion time is 18 to 20 months. That puts it at the late fall of 2023. Again, I want to highlight the estimated part of that. So that's what we have. I answer any questions from anybody here or anybody in the chat if they have any, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share this stuff.
Thank you, Mike. I had a little bit of technical difficulty. Apologize for the delay. Hopefully everyone was able to see and hear most of that. Let's see if we can get back to. Can you confirm we're at the update slide?
No, we're not.
Okay. Hopefully that will show up momentarily. I'm going to just run really quickly because I don't want us to run long today, just to share with you some of the things that are happening in FOVEC. One is that it's 2022 and we do have an annual membership with FOVEC. So those of you who are members should be seeing your renewals. They come via email. Your $24 may not seem like a lot, but it helps support all of the things that we do. And so we hope that you will look for that email and respond favorably. If you have any questions, please reach out to me or any of the other folks that you've heard from today, and we'll be happy to try and answer any questions. Likewise, we do our sponsorship on an annual basis. And sponsorship, we believe, is good for your business and that we do our best to promote you throughout the year. And it's, of course, good for the community because all the money that we raise goes directly back into events or infrastructure or other activities that benefit or enhance the village. Two things that are relatively new is that we are doing a great deal now with outreach to the merchants. The next event, which I'm going to ask Nan to talk about in just a few minutes, is we're going to do a winter social in February, and it will obviously be a social in the same way that our past socials have, where it's about bringing the community together to get to know each other better. But we're also going to use it as an opportunity to try and engage with as many of the merchants as possible. Cheryl mentioned earlier that she's been out and talking to many of them, trying to think about, while the park is under construction, how do we do other smaller activities in the village to try and bring more visitors to the community, and also to do some shared marketing, because we believe that we are stronger together than doing this individually. And last but certainly not least, Tori talked about the importance of working with our other community partners. Obviously, we work very closely with the Park District, but we also work closely with FOFLA and Rotary and the Women's Thursday Club and the Historical Society. Fair Oaks is blessed with lots and lots of communities, community clubs, community organizations who all contribute to the health and vitality of what we do here. And so we're much more actively working to try and integrate with their activities so that we don't either come to the merchants asking for duplicate donations, or we don't step on each other's projects or activities. And so all of these things you can track on our website, or we cover them in our board meetings on a monthly basis if you'd like to get more involved. We're always looking for additional help. And with that, Nan, I will turn it back to you to talk a little bit about some of our upcoming events.
Thank you, Keith, so much. We still don't see your screen, and just to let you know that. But we do have in the village, you know, FOVEC, we are the Fair Oaks Village Enhancement Committee. So the events that we talk about, the upcoming events, are those events that are happening in the village proper. So, you know, there are lots of other events, and with the park construction, a lot of the events that typically have happened in the village have been moved out of the village. But one of our main focuses during this park construction time is to keep things going in the village and keep people coming to the village and do everything that we can, partnering with our other community partners and the merchants, as Keith mentioned, to keep things going in the village here. So as the upcoming events here in the village, so the first thing to happen in February is the FOVEC board meeting. That is on the 2nd of February, in a little bit more than a week, or actually a week from today. The public is welcome. You'll hear about current projects and things that are going on, and we'd love to have everyone join us. The Village Car Show will happen on the first Sunday, as it always does, and that is from 8:30 to 10 a.m. and that is growing and growing and brings people into the village. Also, every Saturday, if you didn't know, there is a community run that starts at 8:30 or 8 o'clock, excuse me, and that's at Wild Runners. Wild Runners is on the corner of California Avenue and Fair Oaks Boulevard, where the old grocery store used to be, for those of you who've been around for a long time. But anyway, every week they do a run, and it's really fun. They stretch in the park, then they go for a run. And most weeks they have some other runners group join their group. So you get to meet different people who are running, and it's for all levels. So you can walk, you can run, and you can race, whatever you prefer. And then Shangri-La is also doing a Sweethearts Night Market. That is on the 8th of February, and it's a Valentine upscale craft fair. It's from 4:30 to 8:30 in the Shangri-La patio area. If you've never been to one of those markets, I strongly recommend you go. They're super fun, and you can have a cocktail or a bite to eat, a snack or whatever while you're shopping the merchants, and there's really great items that you might want for your Valentine. And then, as Keith mentioned, and Cheryl pointed on as well, the FOVEC Winter Social is the 23rd of February, and it is going to be at the Biker Bar Cafe, and that is at 10136 Fair Oaks Boulevard in the old hardware store, the old Barbecue Pro. It's a great space. The Biker Bar opened over a year ago, and they're working on getting their food and beverage licenses. Not quite there yet, but we will have appetizers by Brahma, and we will have beer and wine and soft drinks available. And it is a great time for you to get to know us, the FOVEC committee, as well as your fellow Fair Okies. And we also invite all the merchants to come to this one. As Keith mentioned, we like to strategize at our first social of the year with the merchants, find out what kind of events they want to see, and what kind of marketing we can collectively do together, and also just to collaborate and communicate with one another, so that when things are going on at one of the merchants or one of the other businesses in the village, we can know about it and we can share it and we can publicize it so that everyone benefits from the things that are going on in the village. So those are what we have on the calendar right now for February. And we hope that you can make it to our social for sure, but definitely check out the other events. Now, to register for the social, we are asking for a donation, $5 if you're a FOVEC member and $10 if you're not. And you can go to the FOVEC website, which is fovec.org, to register. It's super easy. We'd love to see you there. And as Cheryl mentioned, if you're in the village, you'll be able to see a flyer in the merchants' windows and join us then. Okay, Keith, back to you.
Thank you, Nan. I can't quite tell from the background, but we had talked about you maybe wandering over and featuring our memorial in the park today, or just off the park today. Did you manage to find your way over there, and is your connection stable?
My connection is stable, and that is where I am heading right this moment. So one of the things we like to do with our village updates is kind of to highlight different things in the village, different points of interest, businesses, whatever. So are you ready for me to do that now? So what I'm highlighting today, let me change this if I can. Let's see, there we go. I'm coming over here to the Founders Monument. So this is in the triangle across from Shangri-La and Bad Fish Coffee and the townhouse and the Water District Field Yard. So this was done a few years ago by FOFA, the Fair Oaks Foundation for Leisure and Arts. And it's a tree sculpture, oak tree sculpture appropriately, showing the established date of Fair Oaks, which is 1895, with the beautiful rock foundation, river rock foundation. And these river rock foundations and walls you'll see throughout the village. And those rocks were actually gathered from the river, our beautiful American river. So you see it all along here too. So the oak tree sculpture was done by Phil Evans. He's a local artist here in the village. Lived his entire life, well, most of his life here, and is still in the area. And then along with the Founders Monument is information about the actual founding of Fair Oaks. So you can learn all about the early founders of Fair Oaks, which it actually was founded to be kind of like a vacation resort community for the people in the Midwest. And then the second plaque talks about early life in Fair Oaks, the industries, what people did, who they were, all of that kind of stuff. And then early structures of Fair Oaks. So all of this information was put together by FOFLA with help of the Fair Oaks Historical Society, which we have a very robust historical society here in Fair Oaks because there is so much history and we really have such a wonderful, unique community. So this is the Founders Monument, and the triangle has been improved with this too, with this little walkway through here from the corner street there through Fair Oaks Boulevard down here to Fair Oaks Boulevard where it meets Winding Way. And it does have some beautiful oak trees in it as well. I just wanted to show you because I thought this was interesting this morning. So here we have, I believe this is a valley oak. Notice it is without leaves. And then here we have another oak tree also local to our area. And this is a live oak. And you notice it has all its leaves. So the live oaks keep most of their leaves during the winter, where the valley oaks shed them all. And the blue oaks, I believe, shed them as well. But anyway, there's another tree behind that one that also has lost its leaves for the winter. So when you get a chance and you're strolling through the village, come take a gander and take a look at this Founders Monument. It's one of the unique things about Fair Oaks, and you'll learn some history about it for those of you who have not lived in the village that long. I grew up here, so some of the stuff that I feel is second nature and that everyone should know are things that maybe people don't know. So we're going to try and share a lot of that with our village updates as well. All right, Keith, that's what I have. Back to you.
Nan, thank you. I really enjoy the fact that you're comfortable going on the road and sharing with us some of these spots around the village. It's also a wonderful opportunity to talk about how all of the different organizations in Fair Oaks try to work together, because I know that one of the things FOFLA is looking for is help with lighting in the triangle. That it was a part of the original idea, but it didn't get implemented, and would be nice to be able to install solar or alternative lighting down there so that people could enjoy it into the early evenings, particularly as the warmer months come up. So if anyone out there knows an electrician or someone who's a general contractor who would be interested in bidding on that, please reach out to me or to the FOFLA organization, and we'll try and get you connected. With that, I'm going to, unless there are any questions, I'm going to wrap up today's presentation. Thank everyone for joining us, and encourage people to please If you can, join us on the 23rd of February at the Winter Social. It's a great opportunity for us to meet and get to know you in person. And especially for this one, we would encourage all of the merchants, the restaurants, the businesses in the village to come on out, because we're going to be talking about how do we bring more events into the village while the park is under construction, in order to encourage people to come and visit and patronize all of our wonderful establishments. So with that, I will wrap it up. Thank you again, and we'll see you again in a month. Bye all.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye.